This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of This Week in Connecticut for the new year. We saw protests erupt across the country this week in response to an ICE agent shooting and killing a woman in Minneapolis. Today, we're speaking with our state's Inspector General to get his take on the deadly force used in Minnesota. Also, 2026 is a big election year. Today, in the 2nd Congressional District, Congressman Joe Courtney has a challenger from within his own party. We'll meet Kyle Gauck. Also, it is tax season. How will the so-called big, beautiful bill impact you? Accountant Joel Nowakowski is with us. And we'll chat with Sam Calhoun, a student reporter at UConn, whose grandfather is the legendary Jim Calhoun. First up today, the fallout from the shooting of a woman by a federal immigration officer, ICE, in Minnesota. It has triggered protests here in Connecticut and many questions. Connecticut Inspector General Elliot Prescott joins us now. And Inspector General Prescott, good to see you back here in the program.
Nice to be with you.
And just for those of you who don't remember our last interview, what exactly is your responsibility as Inspector General? What's your job?
So the Connecticut Inspector General has a number of different jurisdictions, but the primary jurisdiction, the one that's most relevant here today, is that I investigate all officer-involved uses of deadly physical force. So anytime a police officer in Connecticut, for example, uses their firearm, regardless of whether someone is injured or not, I investigate the circumstances of that incident and decide whether or not the use of deadly physical force was justified. If I conclude that it was, I write a report explaining my findings to the public, and if it was not, I bring a criminal prosecution against that officer.
And not every state has one, correct?
That is correct. Connecticut is fairly unique in having this role. Connecticut, in the Police Accountability Act, which was passed after the George Floyd incident, really was intent on creating a person, a state official, who had real independence, didn't have traditional ties to law enforcement, and could judge these cases fairly and transparently.
And we should point out Minnesota does not have one. So as you look at the videos that are all over the internet and on our website of what happened in Minneapolis, what's your reaction to it? What have you learned from it? Do you have any judgment you want to pass?
My most immediate reaction is it's too soon to say.
Okay.
And that is because these incidents involve typically months and months of investigation where forensic evidence is collected, digital evidence is collected, there may be DNA testing of items, there is surveillance video that's tried to be found. There's lots of things that go into these investigations, and they take months. And it's only after you've gathered all of that evidence and analyzed it can you say whether a particular use of force was justified.
And briefly, though, as you look at these videos as well, I know that you can't say anything, but if it happened in Minnesota, this is the scene from the Ribicoff building in Hartford, just this past week where protests broke out. What if an ICE agent shot someone in Hartford or New Haven? Would you be able to investigate that? Because Minnesota officials are being told they are not investigating. The FBI has taken over.
I would have jurisdiction to investigate.
Okay.
And I'm a little bit concerned about the willingness of Minnesota officials not to pursue their very valid interest in ensuring that state laws are followed. In the months since I've become Inspector General, I've actually been engaged in discussions with the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, the ATF, and DEA about how we would cooperate in such an investigation. And when I'm not seeing that cooperation here.
We're a little tight on time, so I want to get some quick questions out there. And first of all, what happens to the evidence right at the scene? Who seizes that?
Well, in Connecticut, the state police would work with my office in processing the crime scene, gathering the evidence, and then it would all be submitted back to us for analysis.
Vice President Vance says these officers, ICE agents, have immunity. Is that true?
It could be. It depends upon the circumstances, but you can only determine that after the investigation. They certainly don't have immunity to murder anybody, and so the circumstances of what happened in the incident would play a large role in deciding whether or not they had immunity.
And what kind of rights do protesters have? There's been some talk by the administration that perhaps you can't take video of a federal officer doing his or her job.
Well, that's not true.
So you can.
It's very well established that the citizen has a general right to record law enforcement.
What kind of discussions have you had with the governor about what happened in Minnesota? Has he asked your opinion on anything?
He hasn't, and again, I think that's part of my independence. I'm not answerable to another state official. I make my own decisions about whether to bring a case in any particular incident, and I think, and do it transparently, and I think that's important.
And if you have advice for officers who are watching this program today, any advice for them at all as they navigate these new waters out there?
Follow your training. Our state does a great job in training young officers to use de-escalation measures and other means so that you never have to use deadly physical force.
Elliot Prescott, he is the Inspector General for the state of Connecticut. We appreciate your insight today.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for being with us. And when we come back, we will be talking about changes for the 2026 tax season that you need to be aware of before you file.